Honors and on to the PBA and ABC Hall of Fame honors. Truly a legend in his own time. The great Earl Anthony has now made the transition from competitive bowler to bowling proprietor. And this week he hosts the greatest bowlers in the world in the $125,000 Kessler Open. Hello, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner along with Mike Durbin, and we are here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California for the finals of the Kessler Open. An interesting field. Plenty of left-handers involved this week.
There certainly are, Dan. This year's been kind of a lean year for some of the left-handers on the PBA Tour, but this week there were 9 of them in our top 24, 13 of them in the money, and we've got 2 in our championship round tonight. So it's a good chance that a left-hander could win this tournament.
And, Mike, we now see the resurgence of the power player, as it were, in the number 5 slot, John Forst.
John Forst, coming back from a wrist injury, is a great big player with an even bigger bowling ball, and he can throw a lot of strikes when he gets it going.
And in the number 4 spot, the buzzsaw from Independence, Kentucky, John Gant.
Throws perhaps the strongest ball on the PBA Tour, certainly from the left side. When he gets it in light, those pins just seem to fly off the deck in a hurry.
And the Lone Star State, well represented on tonight's finals by David Ozio of Vidor, Texas.
Our qualifying leader this week needed 3 strikes in the 10th frame of the last game in order to lead this tournament, left the 8-10 split and wound up 3rd, but he says that's his favorite position.
And we'll have a local flavor on tonight's telecast. A local pro, Rusty Greiner, qualified number 2.
And he's our only non-champion in our finals field tonight. He needs to win 2 games tonight to win his first PBA title.
And, Michael, it's been a year since Mark Baker was involved in a telecast. He will bowl out of the number 1 position.
He's had some back problems, a lot of pain. He's come back from that, done some exercise. He's the leader tonight, shot 3 big games just to make it into the top 24. He says he's going to be loose and relaxed and win tonight.
And, Mike, the finals really almost a drawback, look back to 85 and 86 with lots of power players involved.
Well, this year, what they call the tweener, the guy that throws that medium hook, has been doing very well. This week, though, the shot moved a little deeper inside, Dan, toward that 3rd and 4th arrow place. Some of the guys who throw the great big hook are bowling well, as evidenced by Mark Baker leading and being the man to beat tonight.
Earl Anthony was a great competitor, great bowler, and also he's been a great host this week. So stay tuned for the finals of the $125,000 Kessler Open. Tonight's telecast is being brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. For all that you do, this Bud's for you. By Everready rechargeable batteries, rechargeable up to 1,000 times. And by True Value Hardware. More than just a name, it's their way of doing business. And coming up in the opening match, a couple of power players, John Forst and John Gant. Stay tuned.
It's the beauty and splendor of Europe's oldest thoroughbred racing track. It's an international field of 3-year-olds battling to prove themselves. And it's the people of Ireland who simply have a way of making a horse race magic. It's the Budweiser Irish Derby, Saturday, June 27th. It's the sport of kings and the king of beers, the Budweiser Irish Derby.
Good times never lasted longer.
Now's the perfect time for home fix-up projects with the help of True Value Hardware stores. Restore X paint remover for $9.99 a gallon dissolves old exterior paint. Then apply a fresh coat of True Test Weatherall house paint, priced from $10.98 a gallon. Cover large areas with this Wagner electronic power painter for only $139.99. And get a lift with this 6-foot wood step ladder from Rich. It's just $18.88 at participating True Value Hardware stores and home centers.
Columbia 300 knows that all bowlers are not created equal. That's why Columbia 300 has spent years in research just to have the right ball for you. If you need less weight, the light dot. Drier lanes, the white dot. The perfect all-around ball, the world-famous yellow dot. If you're ready for urethane, the Columbia 300 U dot, the wine U dot for normal conditions, and the new black U dot when you want more curve. Columbia 300 sold only in lanes and pro shops.
Welcome back to the home of professional bowling in Dublin, California. Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl on the left-hand lane. There you see him, a powerful player. John Gant, 6'2", 190 pounds. And take one look at this first shot. A good estimation is why they call him Buzzsaw. Right off the bat, Mike Durbin, solid in the pocket.
Either my ball would have struck that solid there.
Yes, sir. He is fun to watch. And speaking of power players and guys that have struck all week long, John Forst out of Woodbridge, Illinois.
And he had to win a roll-off. He tied for the 5th and 6th spot last night in our position round. And shot very well in the roll-off, 220 to 179. Perfect himself.
An eye for an eye.
Big, powerful player, 5 steps. See how he cups that wrist as he starts? It's cupped in the downswing at the top, and then he keeps it cupped all the way through. Shoulder opens up, closes back up. Good follow-through.
John Forst, in essence, missing the entire 1986 season with some wrist problems. This week, though, he was here to stay and bowled very, very well.
For the double to take an early lead. On the Brooklyn. That's where he threw his practice ball, and it carried.
I know you mentioned that just before we went on the air, that his last practice shot on the left-hand lane was a runaway Brooklyn, so obviously he's got an adjustment to make on lane 33.
Well, we saw his last 2 shots in practice on lane 33. One went Brooklyn, the next one missed the headpin. So he said, I like the Brooklyn better. It has a better chance to strike.
This is John's 3rd appearance in the championship round in 1987.
Even the match. 5-2-4. And John finishes with kind of a stiff leg as it is, and he was a little even more upright now. Watch his approach here. Ball held low. Watch his right leg as he comes through. Very little bend. He snaps that. Look at that finger lift. But he came up a little quick there, and the ball was right of his target to make the spare. Ooh, barely. Not exactly the way you draw it on the diagram board, but he got it done.
John Gant, last year earning $74,000. So far this year at $42,730, and he won earlier this year, capturing the True Value Hardware Championship. There you see the specifics, 1987 average. Of course, he was the 1986 average king last year. He was the #1 average player on the PBA Tour.
Well, he came on tremendously in the fall. It just was on the telecast almost every week in the fall last year. Ooh, a solid 9-pin, and that just appeared impossible that anything could stand with him throwing the ball in there that way. We're going to watch it here as the ball goes into the 1-2 pocket. It will chop the 5 straight back off the 9. Watch the ball closely as it goes through the pins and hits that 5-pin. The 5-pin goes straight back. He makes the 9-pin in live action. It amazes me every time I see that. I can't understand how that
Mike,
pin
let me
stands.
ask you, I guess, kind of a crazy question. Can you throw the ball too good? Can you throw it too powerfully, and that's why sometimes you leave those solid hits?
Definitely, yes. The pins fly just too quickly, and it's just too much power, and that's why you leave 4 9s or 6 8s and some of the solid 10s.
This game will drive you crazy.
Forced for 3 in a row on his favorite of the 2 lanes. Soft for the speed. Soft for the speed, and not enough room leaves the 2, or the, I'm getting my lefty-righty mixed up, to 3-10 here.
Mike, it's interesting when you look at Forst's game. He really almost steps to the side when he gets to the foul line and swings that ball way inside. Kind of an unusual delivery.
Probably developed as a younger player when he wasn't as big and strong as he is right now. Cross lane at the 3-10, and just gets it. I thought it going by.
Well, John Forst is picking up where Joe Firpo left off last week and picking up those splits.
As we watch it here, he throws his normal hook ball, doesn't straighten it out at all. And about here, it doesn't look like it has much chance, and then it makes that left-hand turn. It is possible for some of those big hook ball bowlers to go between those 2 pins. seen that happen.
That'd be an amazing stunt.
See what kind of an adjustment he makes on lane 33. On the Brooklyn side again, he's just totally lost on that lane. He's just not giving the ball any room at all to let it come back.
Almost seems like he's cutting it short a little bit, not really extending and getting through the shot, Mike.
Well, that happens when you're not getting the ball reaction that you want, and you have a tendency to fit it, even when you throw that big hook ball. At the 6-pin, relatively easy spare. Has it with no problem.
So both players at this point just getting comfortable, getting their rhythms at this stage. John Force leads by 8 here in the match.
Fixing this water damage will cost $1,200. Could I have prevented it?
You could with Thompson's Water Seal.
This water damage is going to run $750. What would have stopped it?
Prevent water damage with Thompson's Water Seal. Simply brush Thompson's on wood, brick, or concrete, and it penetrates to form a barrier water can't get past, even when driven by 98-mile-per-hour winds.
This time, I'm going to protect my new deck with Thompson's Water Seal. A great defense against repair expense.
If you've ever thought of starting a business, or if you already have, the Wall Street Journal could open some new doors for you. And more important, help keep them open.
Call 800-372-3000 for this special introductory offer. 13 weeks for just $29.75 with a money-back guarantee. 13 weeks, $29.75. Phone 800-372-3000 now for the Wall Street Journal.
For the first time ever on television, viewers will see live coverage of the U.S. Open Championship in prime time. That's right, on ESPN. First and second round coverage from the Lakeside course at the Olympic Club in San Francisco, Thursday and Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Then a reload action, 7 to 10 p.m. both days. Oh, my goodness, what an Open that should prove to be at the Olympic. And it's too bad Arnold Palmer didn't qualify once again this year.
And you've played that course, haven't you, Dan?
Yes, I have. I've struggled around that course 8 or 9 times. And I'll tell you this, you better hit it in the fairway and get it on the green, or you're going to have some serious problems. John Gant trying to reload himself on lane 34, and Gant has thrown 2 absolutely perfect shots and left a solid 9 and a solid 7.
And that's what we were talking about. Too much power, that ball hitting almost perfectly dead flush and sending that 7 or the 4-pin around the 7, as we see this week's average of 218. Only a high series of 705. No, I think that doesn't sound quite right. Cross lane at the 7-pin.
I will say this, though, for John Gant. He posted the best match play record of our television finalists, 16 and 8, and he told me, hey, that's the key to me getting to the show here this evening. I won a lot of matches.
Well, you get those 30 bonus pins, as we see the score there. Forced up by 8 pins. Both players working on spares. 9 pins it is. I'm not adding right here.
Mike, John Gant, a player with unlimited potential, don't you think?
Yeah, you have that feeling about him with that powerful ball that if he ever broke loose, he could win every tournament he enters.
He's still in a learning process, and I think he has plenty of years yet on the PBA Tour. And lane 33, which has been pretty good for Gant that time, almost leaves the 4-6.
Well, he gets a good break where he's gotten 2 bad breaks the previous 2 frames. He was right through the heart of the pins there and breaks it up to get only the 4-pin. Cross lane at this spare. And has it.
Mike, it never ceases to amaze me what happens to the finalists when they get to the televised finals. This week on the TV pair, Gant averaged 222.5 and John Forst averaged 230.5. So both players really whacked this pair during the tournament.
Well, they're not always exactly the same the day of the television show. Through the nose, another breakup. He just is not giving that ball room.
I was going to say, is it my imagination? I watched John play most of the match play portion this week, and he arced the ball quite a bit more. Now, I realize that lanes are probably a little bit tighter, but he's just playing too straight.
Well, he's playing around that 3rd arrow, and he just, ball breaking too sharp. He's got to give it more room, send it out around that 13th board. 2 boards right of that 3rd arrow. At the 610, has the spare.
Interesting note, too, when I talked to John before the show, I said, what was the key to your bowling so well this week? And he said, Billy Hall, who drills bowling balls for Lear Lickstein, Player Services Director, came up with a couple of new weights for me. I just said, hey, you drill up a couple of balls you think I can score with this week, and that's what Billy Hall did. And John is still using the same ball he used all week long, so he's trying to be confident, but at the same time, he's not getting the greatest reaction.
Well, you got to make the good shot, so too. He's got to make a better pass, especially at this left-hand lane. Give the ball a little bit more room. See, when you come through it like that and make those good shots, even on tough lanes, you can strike.
Well, you can understand why he might be a little nervous at this point, too, Mike. It's the first finals that he has made since 1985. As we mentioned, 1986, virtually the whole year wiped out because of the wrist problem, so he might be a tad rusty. John Gant trails by 8 in the 6th. Opening match of the $125,000 Kessler Open.
And we saw for a second a pin come flying across there and fell off the back of the lane, but John Gant is famous for getting messenger strikes, where he sends messenger pins across the lane and getting that 7th pin out of there.
Looking at John's stats for 87, he has made the television show 3 times, 4 finishes in the top 24, and 9 cashes in 16 tournaments. And as I did mention a little while ago, he won the True Value Open on the Winter Tour.
At the 7th pin, he has the spare. And amazingly, the man who probably throws more strikes than anyone else out here has only 1 strike through 6 frames. You see the scoreboard, and the difference still 9 pins. And John Forrest has them. Seventh frame. John Gant, I think, is clicking in the back of his mind. It's time to get going.
No time like the present.
Five steps. Ooh, he finally gets a good break. Trips that 6th pin out of there.
Now, see, Mike, bowlers do get good breaks. Now, I know you lamented all those years that you never got one, but see, John Gant can sit back and comfortably watch. He still trails by 9, but he's right in the hunt.
When that first warning itch of athlete's foot strikes, you want to stop that itch in seconds. Not even the leading remedy says it can do that. But Absorbine Jr. can. Absorbine Jr. also kills athlete's foot fungus on contact. So when that first warning itch of athlete's foot strikes, why wait 24 hours for relief when Absorbine Jr. can stop that itch in seconds? Absorbine Jr. can do that. It really can.
Light fighters, the new light infantry. No matter where you are, in the jungle, the Arctic, the desert, or the mountains, you run out of day before you run out of challenge.
You know, all this talk about building your confidence might sound like a lot of hype. Let me tell you, hype doesn't get you to the top of this rock.
Be all that you can be.
Hey, Gal.
What?
The elevator's here.
Find your future in the Army.
From tee to green, television's best golf coverage is on ESPN. The greatest tournaments, including Grand Slam events, the U.S. Open, British Open, and the PGA Championship. Outstanding PGA Tour, LPGA, and Senior PGA Tour golfers, featuring Jack Nicklaus, Pat Bradley, and Arnold Palmer. ESPN's live coverage from the world's most spectacular courses brings you closer than ever to the players and the action. The very best is par for the course on ESPN.
And there's a look at 2 of the hardest working guys in the proprietors bowling in this area, Ted Hoffman and also Earl Anthony. And in the middle, Ted's wife, Marilyn. And if truth be known, she probably runs the whole show, right, Mike?
Well, I know she runs a tournament association up here. She has for the last 13 years and done very well with that.
Well, the Hoffman family have been heavily involved in bowling for many, many, many years. John Forrest leads by 11. Or make that 9, rather. Would love to double at this stage. Do you give it enough room?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness.
Man, that ball came in light and through the whole building at the 7th pin, but it didn't fall. Watch it as it comes in light. Watch the 5 pin, the head right behind the head pin here. The 5 pin goes over, The head pin bounces all around, but the 5-pin comes up short of the 7. It hit it, but it didn't knock it over.
Both bowlers have thrown some great shots here, but been a little unlucky. Forrest covers the spare. Only one double so far in the match. Forrest opened with a double in the first and the second.
Forrest making better shots the last 2 frames, though.
You think that might be a result of relaxing a little bit, Mike, on the television?
I definitely think it's.
The winner of this match moves on to take on Viter, Texas pro David Ozio.
There's that light hit that carried. He lost it the time before, got it this time.
Could have easily been a 3-bagger for Forrest.
John Gant trailing by 9 pins, and it's the 8th frame. He can take the lead for the first time in the match right here if he can double.
John Gant with career earnings of $199,253. 2 PBA titles to his credit. 6 300 games. Former Ohio State match play champion. And he's looking for a double.
Oh, there's that light hit that does it for Gant.
Yeah, the old dice-o-matic. I talked to John a little bit earlier before the show and asked him what was the key to making the finals here this week. Show here this evening.
Well, basically, I was patient with my game. I didn't like the lanes too much on some pairs and got in some trouble. I won 16 matches, which helped out a lot. But I just was patient with the scores, and Friday it came all together, and I bowled good Friday night and made the show.
There's a big shot for him right now as he leads by a pin and is bowling on his favorite of the 2 lanes, lane 33. That's why. Now he leads by 11. Really puts the heat on Forrest. Forrest has got to strike on this right lane now to keep himself in the match.
Speaking of heat, last night Forrest tied for the number 5 spot with another local pro, Eric Forkel. Had to win 220-179 in a sudden death match just to get to the television show this evening.
Well, he knows what the pressure's like. Let's see how he responds right here. Look at the eyes.
Picture of concentration.
See that high backswing, the big lift. Here it comes. And he leaves the 5-pin of all pins with his ball to leave the 5-pin.
Chuckling to himself, realizing that that was about 1.5 inches away from maybe a blowout strike. Really, you're not very far away from it.
Easy spare, but now he's in a definite negative position, and he knows it. Right now, John Forrest has a potential of 215. John Gant is going at a 216 pace, as we see the scoreboard right there. So if Forrest can get 3 strikes in a row, we still have a possibility of a tie in this match. He would force Gant to get the first one to win the match.
Don't say tie to a play-by-play broadcaster. How many ties did we have last night? Well, that position round game last night was unbelievable. Last couple of weeks, boy, it's gone right down to the wire.
Through the nose and leaves the 6-pin. Didn't give it to the room. It's hard to do under pressure, and he didn't do it. If he makes this spare, he's going to force Gant to get some kind of mark in the 10th frame to win the first match.
So really, Forrest was living on borrowed time to begin with. As we mentioned, last night he shot 182 in the position round game. And I think felt very fortunate that he was able to do that and come back and win the single game roll-off just to make an appearance. Possible 204 for John Forrest.
Clean game, as both players so far are playing without an open. But you never know.
I really think the key shot for Forrest was in the 7th when he ripped the rack and those pins danced around the 7th pin and it didn't go down. That's a turkey if he strikes there.
Right, he's up by 20 there if he strikes on that one.
Changes the whole complexion of the match.
Solid 10, finishes with 203. Gant needs some kind of mark in the 10th frame in order to win.
John Gant overall, career TV finals record, 7 wins, 10 losses, a 222 average.
And he asked for a re-rack there in the 10th frame and got it, his second one of the match. He re-racked in the 8th frame also. right through the nose and left the 4-7. Could have worse. He needs to make this spare or he's going to lose. Well, he got a big break in breaking up that split.
Sometimes you need a little luck, too, don't you?
In all sports.
That's what John Forst is hoping for right now, just a touch of luck to keep his hopes alive.
Wow, made it on the right. Actually, he threw 2 bad shots and got away with a spare.
Well, John Gant never shows much emotion, but he breathed a sigh of relief after that spare attempt.
He's the winner no matter what he does on this shot. He's going on to face David Ozio.
And there is the fill ball for John Gant. Gant a 212-203 victor over John Forst in the opening match here of the $125,000 Kessler Open. Gant now moves that TV career record to 8-10, and he'd like to win 9. Coming up next, his match against David Ozio, the number 3 qualifier.
Hi. I've been looking all over for this terrific video cassette I heard about. It's called Not So Great Moments in Sports. Like one scene is where Billy Martin tries to give an ump a shoe shine.
That's a fantastic video. Not So Great Moments is 45 minutes of the funniest sports footage I've ever seen.
Great, so you have it.
No, it's not in video stores yet. But you get Not So Great Moments free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated. You get 25 weeks of America's best sports coverage, including the Pro Football Spectacular and the beautiful swimsuit issue. You even get a handy NFL schedule.
And Not So Great Moments in Sports?
You get it all.
How do I get it?
Just call Sports Illustrated's toll-free number.
Yeah, I'll bet they raised the price of the magazine, right?
It's over 47% off the cover price. Just 3 installments of $9.89 each. You can even put it on a credit card.
I gotta get to a phone. What's that number again?
Here, 1-800-621-8000.
Hi, have you heard of Not So Great Moments in Sports?
And welcome to this week's edition of the Bowling News. And I'm sure you're all wondering just what transpired over in Helsinki, Finland this past week in the 11th FIQ World 10-Pin Championships. Team USA had an outstanding event, and here is now a look at the results of what happened over there. Team USA dominated the overall competition, capturing 6 gold medals and 11 for the tournament. The Swedish contingent finished up second, while the host country, Finland, ended up third overall. Of the 44 countries that competed, 13 managed to garner at least 1 medal, while 5 nations earned at least 1 gold medal. Breaking down the overall competition, the United States women finished first in the 5-member team event. The U.S. ladies also captured top honors in the trio, the doubles, and the all events categories. Team USA won 4 gold medals. Here now is a look at the 6 women who represented the United States in this year's event. Highlighted, the competition was a world record performance by Cora Fiebig in the doubles, and for the first time ever in the FIQ, all 6 members of Team USA qualified for the top 16 Masters Championship, M. Sue Holton finishing up 4th in that event. As I mentioned, Fiebig posted a world record score of 1330 en route to winning the doubles. Now over in the men's division, Wichita State's Rick Steelsmith once again grabbed the international spotlight with a brilliant performance. Steelsmith tossed the FIQ's first ever 300 game. He also added a 299 en route to winning 5 medals. The only event that Team USA did not finish either first, second, or third in was the 5-man team competition, where they ended up 8th. All told, the American men, led by the current ABC Masters champion Rick Steelsmith, represented the United States in fine fashion. Team USA members will now be competing in other international competitions, including the Tournament of the Americas, which comes up next month in Miami, Florida, and that, of course, all leading up to an appearance in the 1988 Summer Olympics to be held in Seoul, South Korea. And just to show you how important the host country took this year's FIQ World Championships, the Finnish government issued a special commemorative stamp in honor of the occasion. And we'll turn back now to the professional ranks. Now, all of you are very much aware of the PBA National Tour. But what about the PBA Regional Tour? That's right, they stage events all over the country each and every week throughout the entire year. Now, here's an update as to what's been happening among the PBA Regional ranks. In the headquarters region, Rich and Steve Orr teamed up to win the doubles competition, which was held in Westland, Michigan. Meanwhile, veteran Gus Lampo proved that he could still strike, even though it was his own bowling center, capturing his third Eastern Regional title. Down in the Great Southwest, Billy Ginger of Arlington, Texas, finished atop the stack, while Joe Viscomi of New London, North Carolina, captured a Southern Regional title held down in Jacksonville. Marshall Holman, who finished up 7th here at the Kessler this week, was victorious out in Portland earlier this past month, while Randy Peterson and George Branham III combined to notch the Western Regional doubles. Also in the Midwest, Gus Generis and Randy Lightfoot teamed up to lead the way in Woodbury, Minnesota. And with Father's Day just around the corner, the Kowaliks of Detroit will be celebrating this Sunday for a couple of different reasons. Bob Sr. and Bob Jr. captured the Bowler's Journal Scratch Doubles in Niagara Falls just a couple of weeks ago, winning $4,000 for first place. Now, Bob Jr. had to step up in the 10th and throw a clutch strike. He did so. They won the championship, prompting the proud Papa to say, "I was never so nervous and never so proud." Congratulations, Bob. Happy Father's Day, and I'll be back with Mike Durbin with the tournament stats right after these messages.
Wow.
What you eating, babe?
Nothing, honey.
Oh, you can tell me.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
So what makes it taste so good?
Nothing, honey.
Oh.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
Looks good, Private. What is it?
Nothing, honey.
You love the honey, you love the nuts.
When you've got the special taste of nuts and honey all wrapped up in a hearty crunch, what more can you say?
Looks good, Sergeant. What is it?
Kellogg's Nut and Honey.
Nothing, honey.
Crunch.
For every man who wears Brute, there's a woman who loves what he smells like. Because there's something about Brute that's nice to be close to. And nobody knows that better than a woman.
Hello? Honey, I was just thinking about you.
Brute cologne, deodorant, and everything else. Brute, it smells like a man.
From the beginning, food and ice have fought for space in your ice chest. And from the beginning, food has lost. That's why Gott decided to put ice in its place, in the lid, with our patented refreeze bottle. Just fill it, freeze it, then lock it in. It does the job without fighting your food for space. The refreeze ice chests are technical knockout, only from Gott.
School may be out for the summer, but Scholastic Sports America is still in session. For a look at the best of high school student athletes, join me, Chris Fowler, every Wednesday on ESPN.
Give me 15 seconds to talk about Royal Oak Charcoal. It's been around 40 years, comes in a bright red bag, starts fast, burns slow, gives everything you cook a natural outdoor flavor. Royal Oak. Now that's a big deal.
And welcome back to the Bowling News. Joining me now, colorful Mike Durbin. And Mike, I know one statistic you used to love to talk about when you were bowling full-time on the tour was money earnings. So let's update the folks.
Well, that's what everyone's out here for. And leading money winner is Pete Weber with $151,000. Pete McCordick still second. Randy Peterson made the top 24 this week, along with Marshall Holman. They're 4th and 5th. In the bottom 5, Dave Ferraro was in the top 24, Walter A. Williams, and Emleto Monticelli is in 10th place with $57,000.
Mike, for the most part, it's been a pretty difficult year for the Southpaws, but here this week in Dublin, they exploded.
Well, they certainly did, Dan. We had 9 of them in the top 24 this week. As it is with left-handers, they have to be very patient out here in the PBA Tour. Sometimes kind of wait for their shot, and it happened to come along this week. We see that all the players in the field this week averaged 205. Right-handers 204, and the left-handers, as we indicated, 209, almost 210. To make the money, 53rd place was 208, and to make the top 24, took a 214 average. So the scores were pretty good then. We had a lot of high games also. Our best match play record was John Gant at 16-8. Rusty Griner had the most games over 200 and the most consecutive 200s with 15 consecutive and 33 out of 42 over 200. 2 300s, Mike Edwards, and a good-looking young player, Bill Swanson. A number of 290s with Leroy Bornhop, John Forst, left-hander Tony Figueroa, and Purvis Granger had another 290.
And just one other quick comment. Kind of an interesting field this week. A lot of new players in the top 24 here at Earl's Place.
Well, I haven't been away from the tour too long, but there's a lot of guys out there that I don't recognize, Dan. So it just indicates that the talent is coming out of the regional program and bowling on the national tour. We've got a lot of good-looking young players out here.
And that's it for this week's edition of the Bowling News. And in the opening match here this evening, John Gant defeating John Force 212 to 203. And now Mr. Gant will match up with a gunfighter from Texas, David O. Bowling out of the number 3 position. Stay tuned.
Behold the beer belly. 50 million Americans need a shortcut to get from fat to flat. Introducing the Gut Buster. It's the ultimate fitness machine specifically designed to firm and flatten the stomach as nothing else can. And ladies, if you're as serious as he is, that flat stomach you had in high school can be yours again. Basic spring-ups like these work the upper abdominal region. Reverse for tension-assisted high risers. This sturdy unit travels easily, so you can exercise anywhere. And it's yours with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So go ahead, Gut Busters. If you're serious about a flat stomach, exercise your right to call toll-free now.
To order your Gut Buster, call 1-800-228-8500. That's 1-800-228-8500. Use your credit card to avoid COD charges or send check or money order for $19.95 plus $3 shipping and handling to the Gut Buster, Department 5, Canton, Ohio 44750. That toll-free number again is 1-800-228-8500.
Tropical Mondays are made for Surfer Magazine. Catch a wave with ESPN from Malibu, California to Melbourne, Australia. Around the world with Surfer Magazine. Monday nights at 9 Eastern, only on ESPN.
And as if the PBA Tour isn't enough on ESPN, the Ladies Pro Bowling Tour series starts once again beginning July 27th. 13 tournaments overall, 6 coming your way this summer. And I'll be working with the lovely Leila Wagner for the LPBT series. Looking forward to that. John Gant now ready to start match number 2 on the left-hand lane, lane 33.
See if that narrow victory in match number 1 loosens him up and he really starts sawing off some strikes. And the light hit didn't strike for him. He's got to be shocked.
Mike, let me ask you a question. It appears to me when Gant throws the ball that he throws the ball into the lane rather out on the lane rather than out on the lane. Explain that to me.
Well, he has a very stiff-legged finish, and it's hard to get the ball out of the lane when you're not bending your legs or bending your knees down there, so it's going to go down into the floor.
So is this an unorthodox style for John?
Well,
Gant?
everything with John is unorthodox. He's turned a little bit at the line, and most people don't lift the bowling ball as hard, turn as hard as he does.
With the exception of what happens when the ball gets to the pins, right? David Ozio out of Vidor, Texas, with his opening shot. Tonight's televised finals.
Oh, hit it!
Oh! There's a little help on that solid 9. Oh, my goodness.
It should have gone down the first time. He got the exact opposite here. It's a classic style. 5 steps. Look at the free swing. Right in time. Watch the follow-through. Straight up. Not much side turn, but the ball hooks right at the back end, and the 9-pin stands, and I don't know what pin it was. He's all set to be angry, and then it falls for the double. Oh, the light hits are just not carrying today, Dan. They've been carrying all week long, but for some reason, the corner pins are standing today.
There you take a look at David's stats throughout the week.
Look at that yearly average, 215. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Averages are up on the PBA Tour this year.
Scores have been higher this year.
Marshall Holman's on top average-wise. I know Marshall was about, what, 218 coming in as David Ozio with a cliffhanger spare conversion of the 7-pin.
If he could have made the 8-pin last night in the 10th frame, he would have been qualified second here. He left the 8-10. If he strikes out, he leads the tournament by a pin. He left the 8-10 and he needed to get one of them to be second. He missed them both, and he was third.
Said it was just a bad shot, a miscalculation. It cost him second spot. I've noticed one thing. When John Gant goes down on one knee, he's throwing a pretty good shot.
See him from the side. 5 steps. Holds the ball down to start with. Head is very steady. Now goes down a little bit. Watch the leg at the finish. See, if he comes up too quick, that ball's going to go right at target.
And watching him throughout the week, throughout the year, that appears to be his mistake. Normally when he makes a mistake, it does go to the right of the target.
Last shot was perfect.
For the double. And those corner pins are stubborn tonight. Leaves that soft 7.
In just a moment or so, our host Earl Anthony will step up here to the broadcast booth and offer his observations. I know Earl enjoys watching a lot more than he used to bowl, I think, at times. You've said the same thing.
Well, the pressure's a lot different as he makes that 7 pin.
Game's
No
a lot
trouble.
easier from up here, isn't it, Mike?
Why can't those guys strike down there, Denny? Yeah.
Well, David Ozio back up now. He in the third.
Very meticulous player. Practiced for an hour and a half this afternoon just getting ready because he wasn't satisfied with his game. Oh, leaves a solid 10 on just a picture-perfect shot.
When you consider the fact that Ozio averaged 234.5 on this pair throughout the week on games of 258 and 211, one would expect him to bowl well here this evening.
Changes balls to shoot the spare. He goes to a plastic ball that goes much straighter so he can go straight at the pin, cross lane. Right over the middle arrow. Oh! I'll tell you what, he needed every advantage he had then because he didn't lift the ball. He didn't want to. And the plastic ball just barely held to make that. You see, this week's average, he had the high pinfall of everybody. Averaged 221 for 42 games. Or 222, what am I saying? Can I read?
You were excited at those big numbers, that's all.
Yeah, it's more than I averaged. It's more my high game.
David steps back and regroups himself.
Gets the light hit this time.
Yeah, a little break there early for David Ozio, who threw a pretty good shot. He trails by 1 at this point, but still plenty of bowling left in game number 2.
Energizer. Good times never lasted longer.
Looking for a barbecue sauce you could really fall for? Then get ready for that big, bold, spicy taste of Bullseye barbecue sauce. But first, get to your mark, cinch up your belt, put your hat on tight. Bullseye is so powerful good, it'll knock you off your feet.
Better be ready for the big, bold taste of Bullseye barbecue sauce.
Bullseye.
And we're back at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. John Gant leading by a pin.
John Gant has a big wire brush that he uses constantly on his shoes to keep them clean so he can slide. There we see it.
Probably bought that at True Value.
Probably did.
So Gant on the right-hand lane. Looking to get started here. Won the opening match 212-203 over John Forst.
I don't believe it. He had the 5-7-10 up there for a second. I don't think
Sour Apple was standing there for a moment.
I don't think he's left a 5-7-10 in his career, and it was up there for a second. We're going to get a look at it. John Gant rips the finger holes out. Now watch the ball is going to deflect. Here as it hits the 1-2 pocket, and Earl Anthony is about to join us. He may comment on this. So it comes in light, and the 5-7-10 is definitely standing there for a second.
Earl, did you ever leave the Sour Apple in your illustrious bowling career?
Denny, there isn't anything I haven't left in my career, believe me, and I can't believe John Gant almost left that because of the power, like Mike said, in his ball. It's just tremendous power. It's just impossible for his ball to leave that kind of a shot.
Let's get an overview from you. Mike and I have chatted about the potential of a player like John Gant, and obviously you won all those titles from the left side. What do you think the potential is?
I think his potential is unlimited. It's just really how bad John Gant wants to play this game. If he wants to be the best, I think John Gant can be the best left-hander to ever play the game. He has that kind of ability. He's a great athlete. He throws a tremendous bowling ball. He's learning daily. It's amazing how he's progressing as far as his ability to play the game goes. I don't think there's any limit to his ability.
Up a little high and through the nose on lane 33. Obviously, Earl, you've had a chance to bowl on this pair throughout the time that you've owned this bowling center. Can you tell us anything specific about the championship pair?
This pair has always been a pretty high-scoring pair, Dennis, and you know, over the years and throughout you know, the normal league play in the center, things like that. This has been one of our highest-scoring pairs, and I'm kind of surprised the players aren't doing a little better. But again, you have to remember, as Mike knows and you know, being associated with the PBA for a number of years, that the PBA does the lanes here. They're completely different than they are during the normal league play. So they're playing on a much more difficult lane condition than they would normally play on a league play here.
Well, the thing that's amazing, if you look at the composite score of the finalists on the television play, Earl, it would bear that fact out. 235.9 is an average. So.
That's much higher than the average score, obviously, throughout the other pairs. So it has been a high-scoring pair. I think there's a lot of nerves going on out there right now. The players are pressing a little bit, and as time goes on, I think the scores are going to improve a little bit, and I think you'll find that when it gets down to the last couple of games, that I think there'll be some good scores. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I think this is the man to beat right here. Ozio asked for a re-rack on 34, trying for the first double of the match. Leads by 2, can increase it to 12. And that does it.
And I agree with you, Mike. I think the winner of this match will win the tournament. That's the way I feel.
Now, why would you say that, Earl? What brings that to mind?
Well, I feel that way basically, Dennis, because the next player is inexperienced, and Mark Baker has never been very successful from the leadoff spot.
But Mark Baker has had a tremendous record in your bowling center here with 2 regional wins. He shot 300 games.
He also shot 150 in the championship match here 2 years ago.
That's right.
For 3. Ooh.
I really feel Dave Ozio is the favorite at this point, in my mind. That's my mind.
Ozio with an excellent shot on the left-hand lane, takes off in a hurry because he knows he's thrown the ball well, and he is a player who likes to move around a little bit when he gets loose.
Got nice footwork, huh?
He's animated.
Fred Astaire school.
I was going to say Arthur Murray at least. Earl used to dance around like that when you used to throw those shots, didn't you?
Yeah, me and Mike, yeah, we were.
Yeah, and between you only won 56, 55 PBA titles, so maybe that's the key. Maybe you should be a little more reserved as a player.
Well, Mike and I were too old to dance around. We just threw the ball and sat down.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Don't start on me.
John Gant trying for his second strike of the match, down by 11 pins, 6th frame. And, well, he gets a good break and leaves only the 10.
I was watching John in practice. His swing was tight, keeping the elbow in real good and getting the ball out in the lane well. Now his swing seems to be away from his body, Mike, and he seems to be tugging everything, trying to force the ball in the pocket. That's my opinion. I'm sitting right behind the players, and that's the way it looks to me.
Well, you got to remember that you almost left the 5-7-10 on this lane the last time. That'll tighten up that swing in a hurry sometimes.
Well, that's what happens, though, when you get the swing away from your body. You tend to go over the top of the ball, and you try to overpower the lane rather than play the lane, and I think that's what John's trying to do. He's trying to actually overpower the lane with his speed and his strength. And you don't do that in this game. You know that. You have to stroke the ball. You have to make the ball react to the lane conditions out there. You can't try to overpower it.
John Gant trailing by 12. Earl, what did you used to concentrate on when you made the championship finals, national television-wise? Was it just one key, or what, in essence, did you try and think
I had a very
about?
important key that I tried not to embarrass myself, Dennis.
That's what Jack Nicklaus used to say.
Light, and leaves the bucket.
Earl, thanks for taking a couple of moments and stopping up and chatting with us in the booth. And I know you've got to go back down and address your duties as a proprietor here at Earl Anthony Dublin Bowl. It's been a great tournament. Thanks for the hospitality.
Thank you, Dennis. And it's a lot easier watching than it is playing, believe me.
The great Earl Anthony, all-time leading money winner and title holder in PBA history.
At the 3-5-6-9, tough spare, and has it perfectly.
And we're going to take a slight break here. David Ozio leading by 16, but Gant can strike, so stay tuned.
The upset of the week is brought to you by Pepto-Bismol. For most common stomach discomforts, the one that coats is the only one you need. Edwin Moses had gone 122 races in the 400-meter hurdles, a streak lasting nearly 10 years without a loss. However, the 31-year-old Moses was beaten by 21-year-old American Danny Harris at Madrid, Spain. Harris beat Moses by 13/100th of a second, thereby ending the longest winning streak in track and field history. The Pepto-Bismol upset of the week.
Tomorrow is homecoming, and this campus will be filled with parents. But today, Jane's dad is coming home with a bad case of diarrhea.
I feel so weak.
Oh, let's get you into bed.
Tomorrow's homecoming.
You won't miss it.
The one he needs is Pepto-Bismol. As it coats, it soothes heartburn and upset stomach, as well as diarrhea.
I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, me too, honey. Pepto-Bismol, the one that coats, is the only one you need.
And there is the lovely Miss Kessler, 1987. Vicky DeMonte. Ah, they get prettier every year. That's, you know, that's more beautiful than a Dick Weber wall shot, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
Why are you laughing?
Oh. Ozio trying for a strike here in the 7th frame, leading by 16.
David Ozio leads by 16. It's not enough, though.
High. And leaves a 3-6-10, soft with the speed and a little left with the target, just short.
Invariably, Mike, whenever the players come back from a little bit of a timeout, a little bit of a break, why is it much more difficult for them to throw a good shot?
Well, you just got to, sometimes you got to keep your concentration up. Sometimes you have to keep your speed up. You might lose that rhythm a little bit. Ozio's definitely a rhythm player, and he just lost it a little bit. Now, tough for the spare, just gets it.
Well, we've bowled the better part of 2 games at this point without an open frame. John Gant defeating John Force 212 to 203 in the opening match, and now we've gone through, what, 7 frames?
And all of our listeners out there are saying, you just put the jinx on him.
No way.
Light leaves the 2-8.
Yeah, a little more aggressive that time, and swung it just a little bit. This one's, you get the feeling that everybody's a little tight on the show this evening.
If he misses this, we have an even match. He's got to make this to maintain his 11-pin lead.
David Ozio, last year winning $75,338. Thus far this year, a little better than $41,000.
Has the spare, so you didn't jinx him.
Come on now, Mike, I wouldn't do that. These are the greatest bowlers in the world. You can't jinx them.
8th frame, Gant better get his engine revved up here.
John Gant, the 1985 Rookie of the Year on the PBA Tour. This year, I would venture to say, what, the most consistent left-hander on the PBA Tour?
There's his light hit.
Explosion.
He watched it, though. After that potential 5-7-10, he watched it.
Yeah, watch everybody run for cover here on lane 34.
As it comes in light in the 1-2 pocket. Watch the ball, see how much it deflects. Just barely gets that 5. It actually split the 5-4. That ball split the 5-4 and struck.
The thing that's amazing, his pins don't go straight back. They just fly all over the place.
Cut it to 1 pin if he can strike here. Big, big shot for John Gant.
Looking for his first double of this match. Gave it plenty of room and carried the 7 that time. I think he felt all along he threw a pretty good shot.
His 2 best shots of the match, and that was his best one of the match right now. Ozio up quickly, leading by a pin, must respond. Ozio can close him out with 4 strikes, 1 at a time.
David Ozio 9-6 in match play on television.
And a half pocket hit. Strikes for Ozio, maintains that 1-pin lead, and he wants a re-rack on the left lane.
The first time I ever had a chance to watch David Ozio play on the national tour was in the National Resident Pro Championship in Rochester, I think back in '78. He ended up finishing 2nd in that tournament. Came out of nowhere playing the gutter and just had a brilliant week, and ever since then, he's been a vital cog on the PBA Tour.
And he loves that gutter angle, or right off the channel as we see the scoreboard there. Gant with a potential 222, Ozio 223. Ozio wants this first one right here. Here it comes. Oh, and the solid 10. He could not have thrown it any better. Ozio bowled a fine match. He needs to get himself together and make this spare.
Talk about disappointing. That's really probably as good as you can throw it.
Has the 10-pin. Right now, he needs 9 pins to force Gant to strike.
Possible 203 should Ozio strike.
Here's the shot. Here's the shot. Watch the 6-pin, 2nd from the right. Ball comes in flush in the 1-3, and the 6 never got close to the 10. Never got close.
You talk about frustrating. but the job at hand is to get big count on this shot.
And it can't get any bigger. 203. Situation is simple. It's very simple. John Gant must strike on this first ball in the 10th frame to advance on to beat Rusty Greiner.
Well, he has 2 strikes on the right-hand lane in this match.
3 overall. But it comes down to whether he can strike on this one ball. Ozio not even looking down. Tie, right through the heart, 2-4-7, and Ozio moves on. He can look up now.
And you know, Mike, when you used to look down and not watch, you could just hear that ball hit the pocket, and basically you could envision what happened, couldn't you?
I could never keep it up. I had to peek.
You always cheated, did you? Well, for John Gant, a very successful week. I know he's probably a little disappointed at this point. But professional bowlers, Mike, when they get to the show, they love to get into the 10th frame with a chance at their own destiny to control themselves, and I guess that's what you have to feel good about. You bowled well enough to give yourself a chance to win.
But that's what it's all about on the PBA Tour, is you've got to be able to strike in those situations to make the big bucks out here.
Well, David Ozio had to sit and painfully watch. 203 to 195 as Gant could not come up with a strike in the 10th frame. And Ozio and Gant, good friends off the lanes as well. Provided some excitement in game number 2. There you see the scoreboard, 203-195. And so David Ozio continues to climb up the ladder, and he'll face local pro Rusty Greiner, a left-hander from nearby Richmond, California. And the bowling tip coming up next.
This sports challenge is brought to you by Cruex, the #1 cure for jock itch. Arthur Ashe started his tennis career in Richmond, Virginia at the age of 7 in 1950. In the 1960s and 70s, he became one of the best to ever play the game. The Cruex Challenge? In 1968, Arthur Ashe won a major tennis championship that no other American had won for 13 years. What was it?
Hello! My name is Jiffy Jeff! What? You know, the most important thing in boxing is to never get caught with your gloves down. There are only 2 things to bring them down: fatigue and jock itch. It's.
Don't let jock itch hit you below the belt. Fight back with Cruex. Cruex kills jock itch fungus and helps stop painful burning, itching, and irritation.
Time out. I got an itch.
Cruex, the #1 cure for jock itch.
Which championship did Arthur Ashe win in 1968 that no American had won in 13 years? In 1968, Ashe, still an amateur, faced Tom Ocker of Holland in the finals of the U.S. Open. And for the first time in 13 years, an American, Arthur Ashe, won his own country's men's singles championship. Arthur Ashe, a tennis legend.
McDonald's is tossing salad with turkey and ham. It's new. Chef salad. We're tossing salad fresh all day. It's a meal. It's a big new taste. It's our new chef salad. Tossed fresh to go anywhere you want to have it. It's a good time for the great taste. New chef salad. At McDonald's.
We hear a lot nowadays about the modern wrist player, about bowlers wristing the shot. That leads to the question, well, what part does the wrist really play in the sport of bowling? A number of years ago, I went to a friend of mine by the name of Freddie Borden, and he gave me some valuable advice and tips on different wrist positions that really made me a lot of money over the years, and I'd like to share them with you tonight. The first wrist position that I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about 3 tonight, is the straight wrist position. And the wrist is just straight right behind the ball. As I put my fingers in, the wrist stays straight. It stays straight through the swing and the backswing. And most importantly, as I let go of the ball here, the wrist is straight. I use this particular wrist position on a variety of different conditions and in a variety of different angles. When the lanes were reasonably slick to reasonably hooking, I still use this basic straight hand position and wrist position. Now the next one is a very kind of tricky wrist position. It's called the broken wrist. It's a weaker position where the wrist is actually broken back at the point of starting and in the backswing and even at the release. Now you may say, well, why do I want to have my wrist broken and decrease the power on the bowling ball? Well, I found that when the lanes started getting excessively dry or hooking a lot at the back end, this wrist position enabled me to keep the ball on a straighter line, to be more accurate, yet I could still carry the pins at the back end. And I made a lot of money with this particular wrist position. The last wrist position I want to talk about is the cupped wrist, where the wrist actually cups around the ball. And by the way, this is one that was really never in my repertoire. But the bowler gets his hand behind the ball and cups it at the start, in the backswing, and most importantly, at the point of release. What this does is it creates a violent or a big hook at the back end of the lane with this particular ball in wrist position. The assets of this are that when that ball hits the pins, they scatter everywhere, and you get lots of strikes with the cupped wrist position. But the liabilities are that sometimes it's hard to control, and you wind up getting lots of splits and lots of opens. And there's another liability, and this is the reason that I don't recommend it necessarily, especially for younger players, and that's that it sometimes leads to damage with the tendons and different things within the wrist. There are a number of different players on the tour today that have wrist problems. Well, there you have it. Remember the 3 wrist positions: the broken wrist for hooking lanes, the straight wrist for most conditions, and if you want to be like the modern contemporary player, the cupped wrist. We'll see you again next week.
And what do you do if you're a wife and your husband's bowling on television? You can't be here. Well, you send him some good luck hot air balloons, and that's what Dave Ozio's wife Lisa did this week, and obviously they brought him luck here. Take a look at the other finishers this week, Mike.
Eric Forkel just missed. The great Marshall Holman in 7th place there. Randy Peterson on the show last week was 10th. Moving right on down, Dave Ferraro there every week. Parker Bond the 3rd on 13th. Good-looking young player. Gary Skidmore in 16th. John Mazza, another left-hander, in 18th. Del Ballard Jr. in 20th. Another left-hander, Dennis Horan. Brian Voss, last week's runner-up, and Jeff Rickles was 24th.
And we'll be back with the semifinal match as local pro Rusty Griner will try and let some of the air out of Dave Ozio's balloon. Stay tuned.
Down through the years, the big games, the special games, always seem to live on in your memory. The excitement of baseball. It doesn't end when the game ends, and neither does your need to know. That's why so many baseball fans read the Sporting News, America's sports authority for over 100 years. The Sporting News gives you complete, in-depth coverage by more than 40 staff writers reporting right from the scene of the action. The teams, the stars, the strategies, the stats and standings, the pulse-pounding play-by-play excitement. Everything you want, you'll find right here in the Sporting News. It's great reading, and now you can get in on a great half-price offer. Grab a pencil quick, and here's a friend with all the details.
Call now and get 40 issues of the Sporting News for 4 easy payments of $5.45. You'll also get special preview issues at no extra cost. So call now toll-free 1-800-592-6000, 1-800-592-6000.
July is a non-stop sports celebration on ESPN. Gold medal dreams take shape during live U.S. Olympic Festival competition. July means live coverage of the British Open and U.S. Women's Open Championships, plus a Davis Cup showdown between the United States and West Germany. July sets a fast pace with 3 Grand Prix races and 4 tests of thoroughbred horsepower. And see yesteryear's heroes join baseball's immortals during Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. A star-spangled July on ESPN.
Upcoming on ESPN, it's the U.S. Olympic Festival 87, beginning July 16th. Live from North Carolina. Speaking of live, 43 live hours of coverage with special Page 2 features on outstanding athletes and also all the events. You'll want to stay tuned for the 87 version of the U.S. Olympic Festival. We're to the semifinal game now. David Ozio with a tough victory over John Gant. We'll start the match on the left-hand lane.
Another 10-pin. It's just one of those nights, Dan, where the corner pins are stubborn all the way through.
Is it my imagination, or has Ozio continued to slow down the velocity of his ball to get it to react a little on the back end? He threw it a lot harder this week.
Ozio has the ability to be able to increase or decrease the speed, but he's basically a stroker. He, even though he's a mixture of stroke and power, you know, he does his power with his fingers and wrist position, and he's not what we call a cranker. He's definitely a picture book player.
First ever appearance on national television for 25-year-old Rusty Greiner, who qualified in the number 2 position. Boy, look at that average on the television pair.
That's how he did it, too, huh?
Well, shot 246 and 248 during the match play portion on this pair. So
Really
would you say he's pretty
struggled, didn't he?
comfortable there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's standing in the same place as he did last night with his feet, huh? I asked Rusty before the telecast, are you using the same ball? He said, yes, I am, and basically the same angle. There you see his 87 average. He struggled a little bit on the national tour, bowling in 3 tournaments. He was a full-time pro in 85.
For the double. Through the heart. 247 breaks up the split. Rusty Greiner, 4-step player. Ball's in pretty good position. Kind of a bent arm, and the swing opens up there, and no slide at the finish at all. Just plants that foot and turns. Not exactly a classic form. Ooh, as he just gets the spare.
And the local contingent here resting a little easier after that opening spare attempt. Several of his fans, Richmond about 40 miles from Dublin, on hand here this evening.
Ozio up quickly, taking very little time tonight.
Boy, he looks confident, doesn't he?
He is a picture of confidence right now. He knows he's bowling a rookie out there, and he knows that if he can put a little heat on him early, that somehow when you're young like that, you have a tendency to squeeze that ball. Sometimes you have a tendency to squeeze it when you're old, too, but
probably more so. Ozio very loose indeed. 33 years of age, 3 PBA titles. He'd like to make it 4. Good shot on the left-hand lane and another solid 10. And how do you solve that puzzle?
If I knew, I'd still be out there, Ted. I'll tell you.
Oh, brother. That drives me crazy to watch these guys throw great shots and leave those corner pins.
Watch the 6-pin. Right around that 10. Again, it never got close to it. Switches balls again to this brown plastic ball to make the 10-pin.
Only has 1 finger in that ball for the spare attempts, too, a la Gary Dickinson, who I think was one of the early guys on the tour to start that.
I think he was the first to start that.
Why, in essence, do you do that, Mike?
Cuts down on the amount of lift and cuts down on the amount of hook. Makes the ball go straighter at the spare, and it makes it much easier to convert those spares.
Rusty Greiner, regardless of where he finishes tonight, will pick up his biggest PBA check ever.
High again. On the Brooklyn, leaves the 4-pin.
And there's a look at Rusty's parents on hand here this evening at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. They look a little nervous to me.
Rusty right now telling himself to slow down, to settle down. His heart's going, probably if you put a pulse rate on it right now, it's probably going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he just needs to calm down.
And I talked to Rusty a little earlier today and asked him what it was going to feel like to bowl on national television, especially in front of the hometown fans.
It's pretty nice being close to home. A lot of fans around, and it's cheaper for my parents to come out. They don't have to fly out to see me bowl. So that's a lot better. And being on TV for the first time, just all I can do is go out and do my best, and whatever happens, happens. And that's all I can do.
Whatever happens, happens. Didn't Mark Roth used to say that all the time? Well, it worked that time for Rusty Greiner as he trails by 1, but he threw a key strike in the 4th to set up the 5th frame.
For some new and better ways to solve old problems, turn to True Value hardware stores. The Green Thumb Swow cultivator has 3 edges to make weeding simple. The angle shank gets into hard-to-reach areas, and it's just $7.97. Then clean up with the Daisy Hydro Sweep, the water-powered broom that attaches to your garden hose and has 5 high-velocity spray jets. It's only $6.99 after a $3 mail-in rebate, and it's available at participating True Value hardware stores in the home country.
I was cooking on Kingsford showing Major League form, but the minor league charcoal was stuck on warm. Finally, old Lefty threw down his hat and said, when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. I take a Kingsford view about barbecue. When you're hot, you're hot. Kingsford charcoal is made with premium wood char. Kingsford burns hot when some others might not. Said, pay attention, son. Let me show you how it's done. When you're hot, you're hot. He said, thanks a lot. When you're hot, you're hot.
There's a look at the past winners here in Dublin, California. Dave Husted with a brilliant win last year.
Tony Cariello beat Mark Baker in 1985.
Wayne Webb and then Pete Couture and Big Steve Cook back in 1982. They have had some outstanding pros win this event.
And Steve Cook beat Earl Anthony when he won.
Don't say that too loud, Mike. Earl's still sitting down there. Earl Anthony with 41 titles. Yeah, he lost a couple of two, I guess.
42 seconds.
David Ozio looking to get a strike up in the fourth.
And does.
Ball almost seems like it's going in slow motion, Mike.
Well, he's just putting a nice, gentle stroke on it, asking for a re-rack on this left lane. He's got to figure out a way to knock down the 10-pin on lane 33.
I think the most interesting aspect of this finals, you know, when you consider the fact that Dave Ozio is really a stroker, throwing a nice, smooth shot, and then you're going to see Mark Baker come up in that championship game and just rip the finger holes out of that ball and hook it from one end of that lane to the other.
Ozio up by 1 to make it 11.
A little more speed loft, yeah.
we both saw that.
Sure.
And it is a 2.58. Very tough spare.
Boy, that's got to be difficult.
As he just threw it a little bit harder, and the ball got out here and skidded right at this point and doesn't make it up to the 1-3 pocket. He thought it might have a chance. He's got a tough spare. Real tough spare.
Ozio leads by 1 heading into the 5th frame here, but certainly no easy shot on the cross alley spare.
Covers it perfectly, though.
Are the strokers, Mike, better spare shooters than the players who really hook the ball a lot? I'm putting you on the spot.
Not necessarily. Mark Roth has always been known as a power player, and there's not a better spare shooter in the game than Mark Roth.
Thought I was putting you on the spot.
To take the lead. And he comes up light, too. A little bit too much speed with him. Leaves the 3-9. And so both players, it's like a boxing match. You're just feeling each other out, a little bit of sparring around, but nobody ready to deliver the knockout blow.
Rusty Greiner, should he win here this evening, would advance to the Firestone Tournament of Champions for the first time in his career.
In trouble.
Well, the first mistake of the match, and there is his wife, Liz, looking on, and obviously a little disappointed in that shot. Maybe she can coach him into a double here.
And he's still very much in this match. He's only down 13 pins. His count's still good. He just needs to get his composure together so where he can make some decent shots here and get the ball in the 1-2 pocket. Better shot, leaves the 6-pin. Kind of a subdued crowd here. We haven't any strings for them to get excited about. And
you're right. Crowds have been excellent here all week long. To quiet on the set, as they say. Won't take them long. If somebody gets 3 or 4 in a row, they'll be up on their feet.
At the 6-pin, has the spare.
And there you see a beautiful shot of the crowd here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. Dave Ozio.
Right now, Ozio leading by 13 with all of his experience should put 2 strikes together here to really step on his opponent. There's one of them right there.
Oh, look at that reaction from Ozio, who for a second there thought something might stand, but well, that's a terrific shot there on lane 34. Take a look at the eyeballs here. Wait a minute, come on, let's all go down. Yes, no problem. Yes, and it counts, like
Thought he was in
Albert,
pain with that look, wouldn't you?
You'd be in pain too if you were struggling like he is. Boy, it looks so easy when you sit at home and you watch the Pros Bowl on television. Boy, it's really nerve-wracking, especially when you're behind.
Really?
Ozio for the double, as I was going to say. Oh, he begged this one. How about a messenger come over and knock down that 10-pin, huh?
I'll tell you, I'm not even sure which pin that was that did that. I think it might have been the head pin.
Didn't make any difference for Dave Ozio, who opens up a 23-pin lead, courtesy of the double.
minors, you must have called it all 1,000 times. But you never lost sight of the dream.
I got a telegram for you, Tony.
Okay, thanks, Pops. Hi, babe. Hey, guess what? I got your call. Yeah? Brenda Majors.
You got a shot, you take it.
What's this, rookie umpire?
You got the heart to make it. You got the fire, that big league desire. You keep on reaching higher. You make America work, and this buzz for you.
Here's to you. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers.
Hi. Compliments from the gentleman over there.
Powered to burn. Supercharged trucks and tractors are tearing up the Alabama Championships. Plus, Speed Week highlights the treacherous G.I. Joe's 200. See it all Thursday night at 10 Eastern, only on ESPN.
Rusty Greiner finds himself in the unenviable position of trailing by 23 late in the match.
And against the experienced veteran player, David Ozio, he's down 23 in the 7th frame. He's got to start throwing some strikes to put some pressure on Ozio. And he switched bowling balls.
Sure did. That was his spare ball. Well, he's pulling out all the stops. Unfortunately, he can't pull out any strikes.
It's amazing to me how the younger players today are always looking at the bowling ball as the solution. I mean, if they're not striking, they don't analyze their game always. They say it's got to be the bowling ball, and they switch balls.
That's the contemporary style. I don't want to say in your era, but back in the 60s and 70s, the pros adjusted more, as you said, even on the tip tonight, with hand positions.
Or wrist positions, or speed, or realizing that, you know, I may be doing something a little errant and not delivering the ball properly in order, the reason being that I'm not striking. Down 25, 8th frame. Stays with a straighter ball and gets a strike. Well, maybe they know what they're doing.
I mean, so much for that theory, right? But I think you're right. The contemporary players, one player I can think of right off the bat who goes through more bowling balls than I've ever seen is Wayne Webb. He keeps reloading until he finds one that strikes.
Ozio trying for a turkey. And gets it on that light hit. And our scorekeeper, Chuck Pierce, writes up there Del Warren. So Del Warren must be another one that drills up a lot of different bowling balls to find the one that will strike.
He chases all the sales reps around for those comp slips all week long to make sure he's got an arsenal to pull out. And, of course, Del winning the doubles last week with his partner, Joe Firpo. 35-pin advantage for Dave Ozio, who is coasting right along. You heard him say, yeah, baby, and he knew all along that one was going to be flush on the left-hand lane. So Ozio in the driver's seat. Meanwhile, the drama continues. Mark Baker over just to our right, warming up, getting ready for the title match.
Greiner, if he wants to have any chance, must strike on this ball right here. Leaves the 3-5-6. The ball just wouldn't make it on this right lane, and Ozio is going to go on to meet Baker for the title.
Yeah, that look pretty much says it all. Liz obviously a little disappointed. Terrific week, though, one way or another for Rusty Greiner. As I mentioned, his biggest PBA paycheck ever. He'll end up with $7,000 and a third-place finish. And that's not a bad week's work, and I'm sure that'll allow him to bowl plenty more this summer.
I remember back in 1982, I bowled David Ozio on television in Tucson, and I defeated him 250 to 2-0, something like he's going to beat Greiner here. And at that time, Ozio was the inexperienced player, and I was the veteran, you know, and he said there'll come a day when the situation will be reversed.
Did he ever get to bowl you on
television?
television?
Oh, yeah, he beat me in Tucson.
Yeah, revenge, sweet revenge. Good shot there for Rusty, and he's a little dejected, but you can learn from a loss on television, too, can't you, Mike?
Well, just the experience of being able to get out there and perform under that kind of pressure and see what it's like and seeing it's not as bad as you think and that you can have a little fun with it, but also learning that your opponent is out there to throw strikes and beat you, so you've got to do it at the time. If he'd have struck back in that 5th frame and put some heat on Ozio, might have had a different match.
Possible 195 for the 25-year-old left-hander. And when it goes wrong, it all goes wrong.
Well, if he gets 9 out here, finish with 184. My first game on national television, I shot 160 something. So he's
Did you win?
No, I bowled Nelson Burton Jr. He shot 240.
I was going to say you got thrashed then.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice learning experience.
Well, a nice round of applause, though, from the local fans. Handshake from Dave Ozio, and Rusty Griner will tuck this memory back in his mind, and someday 25, 30 years from now, when he's talking to his grandchildren, he'll tell them about his first ever appearance on national television. Ozio with a possible 250. The scores are beginning to pick up just a little bit. Now, let me ask you this. Mark Baker's obviously practicing on the other pair. He realizes all of a sudden Ozio is going to shoot 240 or 250, and he's loose. And what's Mark Baker thinking about?
I think Mark Baker is thinking that he cannot let Ozio finish on the right lane. He's got to make him finish on the left lane. So Baker is going to, and if I were Baker anyway, I'd start the match so that I could finish on the right lane, because Ozio is just not missing this right lane. Until now.
Oh, it never fails. Well, Ozio with a splendid 5-bagger there from the 6th all the way through the 11th. 236 possibility. Come on, David, cover him up. And he does so. So a nice solid game by the pro from Viner, Texas. A 236, 184 victory. Now, let's talk about Ozio at this point. Mike Durbin, is he feeling comfortable and confident he can beat Mark Baker?
Ozio, again, last night, missed the 8-pin or he'd have been second. Now he's looking at that as a blessing, not as a curse. He's looking at it, hey, that was meant to be. That got me in third. It got me a couple of games under my belt. He is very confident. Right now, Ozio is sure he's going to win the tournament.
And now you take a look at Mark Baker, who is grabbing the arsenal, the equipment, and he'll stroll over to the finals pair. And here's a look at the matchup in the title match. Mark Baker and David Ozio. Oh, this will be an interesting championship match. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi. I've been looking all over for this terrific video cassette I heard about. It's called Not So Great Moments in Sports. Like one scene is where Billy Martin tries to give an ump a shoe shine. That's a fantastic video. My favorite part is where John McEnroe plays tennis with his orange juice. I hear there's a scene where Reggie Jackson protests a Gaylord Perry spitball with a visual aid. Yeah. I love it where a kicker tries to play quarterback. Not So Great Moments is 45 minutes of the funniest sports footage I've ever seen. Great, so you have it? No. It's not in video stores yet. Now what do I do? You get it free. Let me understand. You don't have the video, but you're going to tell me how to get it free. Right. Am I missing something? You're missing out on Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated? I love SI. What does Sports Illustrated have to do with it? You get Not So Great Moments in Sports free with your paid subscription. Oh, I let my subscription run out. Well, now's a perfect time to go for it again. You get 25 weeks of America's best sports coverage, including the Pro Football Spectacular with all the picks, previews, and profiles, and the beautiful swimsuit issue. I like that. Everybody likes that. You even get a handy NFL schedule. And Not So Great Moments in Sports? You get it all. I do. How? Just call Sports Illustrated's toll-free number. Wait a minute. All that great footage has got to be worth a fortune. I ought to know. Yeah, I'll bet they raised the price of the magazine, right? It's over 47% off the cover price. Just 3 installments of $9.89 each. You can even put it on a credit card. No kidding. I get 25 weeks of SI, including the Pro Football Spectacular, the football schedule, the swimsuit issue, and the video cassette free. You get it all. Just call 1-800-621-7000. I gotta get to a phone. What's that number again? Here, 1-800-621-7000.
Hi. Have you heard of Not So Great Moments in Sports?
And there's the look of a winner. Dave Ozio, head down, right on target. Boy, that's gorgeous.
Ozio's a pretty bowler. Has been since he came out here on the PBA Tour. The only thing he lacked was confidence, and he seems to be brimming with that right now.
Dave Ozio averaging 219.5 en route to his 2 victories thus far. There you see the 236 victory to 184, and he also defeated John Gant, 203-195. Ozio throwing 5 strikes in the first game, 6 in the second. Next week, we'll be heading to the Emerald City, Seattle, Washington, for the $125,000 Columbia 300 Open, live from Seattle. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and a brand new bowling center this year. Rather than Leilani Lanes, Mike Durbin will be heading a little closer to the airport. Skyland Park Lanes. And there's the championship contestants. David Ozio continuing to climb the ladder, and Mark Baker. Which Mark Baker will show up tonight, Mike Durbin? The dominating player or the Mark Baker that's lost 5 straight championships from the top seed position?
Well, at least I think he's doing the right thing by starting the match and making Ozio finish on the left lane. It's important for Baker to get out in a hurry with some strikes to get him loosened up. That's that power we talked about.
That's power plus there. Just shredded the rack with that opening shot. That's got to boost his confidence. Now the shoe is on the other foot. Ozio on lane 34 will open the championship match.
Soft, but it held. Just a little. I thought he was a little too soft on that shot for a second, but the ball held pocket.
Boy, all of a sudden the intensity and the concentration just tweaked up a little bit when you get to that title match.
Well, this is to get Mark Baker back in the Tournament of Champions. This is a big match for him.
It's amazing,
and
too.
Ozio's on the verge of becoming a superstar. For the double. Boy, is that pretty. You cannot throw a bowling ball any better than he threw that one.
Yeah, that time Ozio came all the way back and gave him that fist right at the end of the approach. Watch this. He'll run it all the way out. Has a pretty good idea. An old player used to do that once in a while was Harry the Tiger Smith. Used to show that guy he was going to strike.
Baker blowing the air out. It's important that he stay with Ozio right here. High on the Brooklyn. He gets the break.
Well, that may be the break he needs in a title match. He's bowled good at times and not come up with enough, and at other times, obviously, bowled very poorly. Shot 150 here in 1985.
We see his average for 1987, 211, which is down from last year, I think, for him. Had a rough winter. Actually went home with 3 weeks to go because he, mental attitude, as he admits, was not the best. He said this week he bowled, didn't get angry. Shot 150, came by and said to Harry Smith, said, just had a rough game there. Just take the lead right here.
Mark Baker believes he's a much more mature player now, as evidence of that shot right there. Baker comes storming back. Big, strong shot on the left-hand lane.
Well, he's feeling good as he's an avid Laker fan, and they became world champs this week. So
you were going to get that in somewhere, wouldn't you? I just knew that was going to come. Obviously, Mike Durbin, a big Laker fan as well. Ozio to remain perfect and keep the match tied, and he does. And all of a sudden, the lights come on, and both players really drill into pocket.
And Ozio, whose head is really into this match right now, immediately looks and asks for the re-rack. By the way, Dan, our re-rack rule is that in order to get the re-rack, you're allowed 3 in a game and 3 only. It must be your first order of business when you go to that next lane, and he's really concentrating right now.
Ozio trying to make it 4 straight and put the pressure back on Mark Baker.
And the 10-pin. He knew it. You could see the way he was running it out. It wasn't quite as aggressive as he had been in some other shots. He knew that, in the way you know that is you can feel it with the fingers. As it comes off your hand, you know you didn't quite catch it.
And that's when you pray to the bowling gods for a half 10, right?
Or you ask that maybe something will hit it.
Well, both players off to a very quick start indeed. Don't go too far because you might miss something. Baker leads by 1, but that's not nearly enough.
Help! Bill, the septic system is backing up. What a mess and what a smell.
I'll call the septic man to pump it out.
I wish there was something we could do to avoid the mess and expense.
Me too.
There is an alternative to waiting around for your septic system to back up. Rid-X. Rid-X in your toilet bowl just once a month adds billions of bacteria to digest waste and help keep your septic system running trouble-free. Rid-X. The alternative to waiting around for your septic system to back up.
Fixing this water damage will cost $1,200. Could I have prevented it?
You could with Thompson's Water Seal.
This water damage is going to run $750. What would have stopped it?
Prevent water damage with Thompson's Water Seal. Simply brush Thompson's on wood, brick, or concrete, and it penetrates to form a barrier water can't get past, even when driven by 98-mile-per-hour winds.
This time, I'm going to protect my new deck with Thompson's Water Seal. A great defense against repairs.
Now's the perfect time for home fix-up projects with the help of True Value hardware stores. Restore X paint remover for $9.99 a gallon dissolves old exterior paint. Then apply a fresh coat of True Test Weatherall house paint, priced from $10.98 a gallon. Cover large areas with this Wagner electronic power painter for only $139.99. And get a lift with this 6-foot wood step ladder from Rich. It's just $18.88 at participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
It's the beauty and splendor of Europe's oldest thoroughbred racing track. It's an international field of 3-year-olds battling to prove themselves. And it's the people of Ireland who simply have a way of making a horse race magic. It's the Budweiser Irish Derby, Saturday, June 27th. It's the sport of kings and the king of beers, the Budweiser Irish Derby.
Look at that sweet check on top, Mike Durbin, $18,000.
Right. The loser of this match is going to wind up with $9,500.
$7,000 for third, $5,500, $4,500. Nice payout. And what a gorgeous trophy, emblematic of winning the 1987 Kessler Open. Mark Baker blowing on those fingers a little bit, trying to stay loose, rightfully so. He has started with 3 strikes. So did Ozio, but Ozio left a 10-pin in the 4th frame and converted the spare.
For 4 in a row. He went up and checked the approach in between frames because he had slipped and came up at the line when he got that Brooklyn in the 2nd frame, and he stayed right down with that shot. Ball finished strong. He's off with that good start that we were talking about.
Mark Baker winning better than $87,000 in 1985. This year, thus far, $18,600. To say that he has struggled over the last year would be an understatement. Uh-oh.
Key to Mark's game
Mental
right
problem
now.
there.
No. The key to Mark's game, that was good, is he wants to stay slow. He has a tendency, because he's young and strong and aggressive, to get going too fast. And he knows that out here with the long oil pattern the PBA puts up, he needs to stay slow. And he was just going too fast then. He stopped himself.
Trying for 5 in a row.
Gave him a lot of room. He hit that thing.
Oh, my.
2-8. Oh, and the 2-8 is the spare that last year in Kansas City against Walter Ray Williams, he missed this in the 9th frame and then missed it in the 10th frame. And Walter Ray then opened in the 10th to let him win. But it's not one of his favorite spares, Dan.
No, brother. And obviously all that creeping back into your mind. Let's see if he can fight it off and pick up the spare.
Has it.
Stood up in a hurry and took a quick look at it, too, as he waves up to Mike Durbin. That's tough. You know, many times it's that mental game that's the difference between being a champion and being an also-ran.
Ozio, who is mentally tough right now. Perfect. Perfect. He knew it.
You're not going to see this 33-year-old pro buckle under the pressure. He is a tremendous pressure bowler.
Asked for a re-rack again on lane 33, a second. He only gets one more. And a lot of people may ask, well, why do they ask for that re-rack? Well, the pins can come down and be just a little off spot, and to the experienced eye of professional, he sees that 3-pin is a little close to the head pin, and he sees on that ring and 10 is what he's thinking in his mind. So he tries to get him a re-rack where they'll come up all where he wants them.
Strikes here, he takes the lead back by a stick.
Oh, and a solid 10-pin.
Yeah, if looks could kill, that 10-pin would be looking for a memorial service.
Ozio, who's left a number of 10-pins on lane 33, must finish on that lane in the 10th frame.
A couple of very good shots and a couple of 10-pins. Well, what can you say?
No trouble with the spare.
Well, I know David's wife, Lisa, and his daughter, Heather, probably hovered close to the television set in Vidor, Texas, watching this one. Boy, it's almost tougher to watch than it is to bowl.
Oh, you got no control there. Baker leading by 9. Keeps his lead.
One point we haven't really touched on, Mike, is the reason why he really has struggled over the last year or so. It's basically because of some ligaments in his lower back. He has really struggled, has had a lot of pain. Said this week it's not too bad, but he is icing his back after every single round now in the PBA Tour, and then he has to heat it up a little bit in the morning.
Before he starts, he wants to get it loose. He does some exercises, but he says as long as he does that, he's not too bad. One more for 19, and knocks that 10-pin out of the power of Baker, knocking that 10-pin out of there.
You can see him trying, I think, to keep himself under control, too, Mike, to just say, hey, don't get too high, don't get too low. Let's just play somewhere in the middle.
He's trying to control that heart rate. I know the feeling very well as it's pounding away.
He leads by 19, but Dave Ozio may change complexion here.
High. Lapse in concentration there. He just... I don't know, he just wasn't together on that shot. Lifts at 3-6-10, and right now Ozio is in a big hole. Must make this spare.
It's amazing what an opponent's double can do to your arm swing.
And has it, no problem. Ozio trailing by 22 pins. Can still potential 246 if he would strike out. Right now, Baker is going at a 238 pace if he would spare strike. And there we see the scoreboard. 22 pins the difference. Ozio must get it going now. And carries the light hit. That's been more reliable for him than the solid hit.
Well, David Ozio, the only player on tonight's telecast with a winning record on television. David coming in now 11-6 overall. Mark Baker, 15 wins, 15 losses. 0 for 5 from the top spot.
But he just wants to get above 500. Here it comes. Knocks that 10-pin out of there. Baker's performing like the champion that everyone out here knows he can be.
It's almost like a sleeping giant. Was a dominating player in '85. Was the leading average winner. Won over $100,000 and finished second in the Firestone to Marshall Holman. Unbelievable talent. And there you see this week averaging 220.19, high series 774. And he exploded the last 3 games of qualifying just to make the finals.
That's where he shot that 774 series. 9th frame. Oh boy, his power is just doing the job on Ozio.
What's going through his mind? He said, oh, geez, so much failure from that top spot. He's so many negative thoughts, but now I think he's to the point now where he smells that victory.
Well, right now, the situation is that Ozio must strike out to make Baker mark. And he's asking for his 3rd re-rack of the match on lane 34. Of course, it's a good situation for him to do it right now because if he doesn't strike now, the match is over. Then Baker's the winner.
Baker with a possible 278. Kind of taking the game out of the other guy's hands when you shoot a big game like that.
Just stay alive. Pretty shot. Wasn't that pretty?
Oh, you draw that one up. Doesn't get much better than that. Ozio hanging on to just a thread at this point. But I have a feeling, hey, if he puts a little pressure back on Baker, anything could happen in the 10th frame.
Sometimes a mark is harder to get than a strike.
But that's all academic if he doesn't strike out on the left-hand lane.
Well, you got to take them one at a time. Must have this first one right here. He's there. Knocks the 10-pin out this time. And Baker is sitting on the bench. In your heart, you're saying, thinking in the back of your mind, well, I don't want him to strike out, but I'm not afraid. I can get up there and throw that strike. But I really don't want him to strike out.
246 possibility for Dave Ozio. Normally, Mike Durbin, 246 be good enough to win a title.
Well, Earl said that we would have higher scores as the matches went on. And he called it right.
He's been right most of his career, don't you think?
The big one right here. Not going to get there, and Baker is going to be the winner.
Well,
and Baker knows it, throws the towel down. Now all he's thinking is, I got to stay behind the foul line.
Boy,
keep it in the building.
Savoring this victory. 0 for 5 from the top spot. Got beat here 2 years ago. And a very frustrating loss for him. Actually, an embarrassing loss.
Ozio finishes with 233. Outstanding performance, just not outstanding enough.
Mark Baker obviously enjoying the fruits of his labor.
And Baker has fouled before, as he did at the Firestone last year. He stayed behind the line, though. Leaves only the 10 pin, and that's just enough. He has no problem.
Well, it's PBA title number 3, and perhaps this will change his attitude towards the game a little bit. Maybe relax a little more, maybe play it down the middle, huh? Obviously a good result this week. He's bowled splendidly, bowled beautifully throughout the finals.
Well, considering that with 3 games to go in the tournament, he was not even in the cash, and he winds up winning the tournament.
The amazing thing was, last night he starts in 6th place and shoots 184 pins over. In the first 3 games to jump on the top spot, he throws a Brooklyn. It doesn't make any difference anyhow. It's all Phil City right now for big Mark Baker. A 257-233 victory in the $125,000 Kessler Open.
And Mark Baker, who has been known for shooting 150s in that title match, this time comes up with a 250.
Well, what do you think, Mike? Do you think he's to the point now where perhaps he could become the superstar that many people suspect that he might or could have even a couple of years ago?
I think it's entirely possible. Of course, you got so many guys out here with so much talent, as a John Gant on this show is illustrative of, and Earl Anthony, who was out here for years. Right now, Baker is the epitome of the young contemporary power player. Big and strong and young, and now starts to get that confidence to go with all that talent. Look out.
And there you get the other side of the coin. The dejected David Ozio, nothing to be ashamed about, bowled superbly. 1-2 matches, just didn't quite come up with enough in the title game, as a shot, a 10 pin in the 4th frame, really pretty much his undoing, because Baker got off to a very fast start, and he ended up taking what he had to win his 3rd PBA title. We'll be back with more right after this.
After years of research, the high-tech laboratories of Columbia 300 have created the most advanced urethane bowling ball ever made, the 100% urethane Columbia 300 U-Dot. The extraordinary U-Dot solves the inherent problems of lope and wobble. Its devastating pin power and superior lane control characteristics are unequaled. If you bowl to win, the Columbia 300 U-Dot is the ultimate weapon. It's like no ball ever made before. Sold only in lanes and pro shops.
Good times never lasted longer.
Strength, pride, tradition. For centuries, the Clydesdale has been known as a special breed. Today, the Clydesdales symbolize Budweiser's dedication to quality, superior ingredients, exclusive beechwood aging, and a distinctively clean, crisp taste that only Budweiser can offer. Quality taste. Because this Bud's for you.
Cleaning is easy with help from True Value hardware stores. The Turbo Wash Power Pressure Sprayer generates a dirt-cutting spray of water and suds to clean your car, driveway, windows, and screens. It's just $14.99 less a $5 Turbo Wash rebate. And Armor All Protectant beautifies leather, vinyl, rubber, and plastic surfaces. The 16-ounce Trigger spray bottle is just $3.99 less a $1 Armor All rebate. Make cleaning easy with help from participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
And welcome back to Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. And there you see the winner of the $125,000 Kessler Open, Mark Baker.
Thank you.
And it's been a long time coming, huh, big fella? 0 for 5 from the top spot. What were you thinking about heading into the title match here this evening?
I pretty much revamped everything the last couple weeks, and I didn't want to get excited. You know, I get pretty volatile out there, and I stayed calm. The Brooklyn the second was the key. David threw some good shots early. The approach has been, you know, we've been slipping all week. I stuck, threw a Brooklyn, it carried. I was due for a couple breaks.
Well, you've had some amazing success in this bowling center. You've won a couple of regionals. You led the tournament in '85. So Are you going to plan on moving in here to Earl's place and sleeping on this pair?
I told Larry before he started we should have a tournament here every week. You know, I could catch his records in, you know, but I've always had success here. It's been, you know, I bowled great in this house, you know, and what better house to bowl in than the best guy that bowled the best that ever lived. So it's nice to win at Earl's house, and I was kidding him earlier. I didn't shoot 150 this time.
Yeah, added 100 pins to that score. Ted Hoffman, why don't you step in? One of the co-proprietors here, a PBA Hall of Famer, winner on the national tour, and, well, express your congratulations here to Mark Baker.
Thank you, Denny. First, I want to congratulate the 5 bowlers on the TV show. They all bowled great. David had a very good match also. Mark, congratulations on behalf of Earl, Kessler, myself, and all the bowling fans here in Dublin. You're a real champion. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. I'd like to thank Mr. Barrett with Kessler, Earl, Ted, the fans here. My father used to live up here in Blackhawk, so I used to practice here, and they treated me great here. The guys in the bar, they know where I'll be later. So this is great. This has been a long time coming, and if I don't say something, the guys on tour give me a hard time. It was nicely done. Thanks.
Right, and probably a couple of Kesslers maybe going down a little bit later on. Jim, why don't you step out now? Joining us, Jim Barrett, representing Kessler Whiskey, and not only a congratulatory handshake, but also a big check.
Mark, on behalf of those of us who make Kessler, I'd like to congratulate you on an excellent match against really superb competition. Here's the check, and here's the one you better bring to the bank.
Well, I know where the bank is. Mr. Barrett, again, thanks, Kessler. They're one of our better sponsors. This is, I never thought I'd ever win again, to tell you the truth, so this is, I really can't believe it's happening, but this is great.
It is great. Mike, why don't you step out, Mike Durbin, and perhaps we'll get a question or so from our color commentator. Terrific title match. David Ozio bowling outstanding. Were there any thoughts in your mind about a possible 300 game? I know you started with the first 3 or 4.
That was the longest thing in my mind. The key was, well, the Brooklyn really helped. You know, that was, you know, I was nervous. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. And when I made the 2-8, I mean, things had to be changing. When I made that 2-8, I missed a few of those on TV. And when I made that 2-8, it was my day.
Let's take a look at the monitor now. Perhaps we can see that great shot you made that crossed over.
Well, I get right here. I said, you shot 150 last time. I just kind of yipped it, and hey, I've carried a few of those this week. You don't lead on tour without a few breaks. You know, we all can't be like Marshall Holman and throw them dead flush.
Yeah,
Marshall bowl's good.
And of course, Marshall Holman is here to defend himself, but he's not out on the approach at this. Maybe we'll have Marshall out in just a little while. Mike Durbin, you probably never ever threw a Brooklyn strike in your career to win a title, but any questions for Mark Baker?
Well, I'm just wondering that you got this 250 to win this tournament. You've struggled for a while. Do you think this is going to be an impetus that can propel you on to the potential that we all know that you have?
Potential's a big word. I played sports all my life, and a lot of guys have a lot of potential. It's a matter of knocking them down. People don't seem to realize how good the other bowlers are on tour. I wasn't making fun of Marshall, but he throws the ball as good as anybody in the world. Beating those guys every week is not as easy as it looks. You know, I shot 250 on TV, but a lot of bad, you know, you can shoot a lot of bad games, and these guys are tough to beat. So I'll bowl as best I can.
I know in watching your career, many people have questioned from time to time your attitude on the bowling lanes. Get a snicker from the crowds here, the local fans. But let's get back to that point. You changed your attitude this week. You didn't get mad. You didn't get frustrated. You just threw strikes.
Well, last week I was pretty bad in Vegas. I didn't get fined because I guess the guys like me. But, you know, I don't know how to put it. It's just, I got to the top in 84, 85. I was up there, you know, I bowled Marshall for the title in Firestone and all that good stuff. And the last 12 months I've been the bottom. And, you know, no matter what happens, you wake up the next day. So, you know, it means a lot to me, but it doesn't mean as much as it did. It's great to win, but I'm not going to live and die in every shot like I used to, and it definitely feels a lot better, and I didn't break any pencils or kick any ball returns, so it was a good week overall.
And the Lakers won, right?
Yeah. Oh, and the Lakers won. Lakers. We'll be back with more from the $125,000 Kessler Open right after these messages.
But the minor league charcoal was stuck on warm. Finally, old Lefty threw down his hat and said, when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. I take a Kingsford view about barbecue. When you're hot, you're hot. Kingsford charcoal is made with premium wood char. Kingsford burns hot when some others might not. Said, pay attention, son, let me show you how it's done. When you're hot, you're hot. He said, thanks a lot. When you're hot, you're hot.
Columbia 300 knows that all bowlers are not created equal. That's why Columbia 300 has spent years in research, just to have the right ball for you. If you need less weight, the light dot. Drier lanes, the white dot. The perfect all-around ball, the world-famous yellow dot. If you're ready for urethane, the Columbia 300 U dot. The wine U dot for normal conditions, and the new black U dot when you want more curve. Columbia 300 sold only in lanes and pro shops.
Strength, pride, tradition. For centuries, the Clydesdale has been known as a special breed. Today, the Clydesdales symbolize Budweiser's dedication to quality, superior ingredients, exclusive beechwood aging, and a distinctively clean, crisp taste that only Budweiser can offer. Quality taste. Because this Bud's for you.
Cleaning is easy with help from True Value hardware stores. The Turbo Wash Power Pressure Sprayer generates a dirt-cutting spray of water and suds to clean your car, driveway, windows, and screens. It's just $14.99 less a $5 Turbo Wash rebate. And Armor All Protectant beautifies leather, vinyl, rubber, and plastic surfaces. The 16-ounce Trigger spray bottle is just $3.99 less a $1 Armor All rebate. Make cleaning easy with help from participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
And how about a round of applause for the gentleman who provided an outstanding championship match in the $125,000 Kessler Open. 257 to 233, and Dave Ozio, I know you are disappointed, but your thoughts about that title match? You couldn't bowl too much better.
Well, I'm not really disappointed. You know, first of all, I'm very thankful to be here. You know, I give thanks and praise to the Lord every day for this, and I just feel it a privilege to be out here and bowl against guys like Mark and Marshall, and all these guys are just 100% raw talent. And I think my turn's coming next time. Today was a little short, but I'll guarantee you there'll be another time.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. What did you really think of Mark Baker when he threw that Brooklyn in the second?
Well, I try not to pay too much attention to that. In the past, I've just tried to push it out and don't let it bother you. The key thing to being a good player out here is to keep your thoughts channeled 110% on what you're doing and don't let any outside distractions bother you. And most people have seen in the past on TV where guys are distracted and they pull their eyes up off shots and things, which cost them tournaments. That's a no-no. Just keep your attention focused on what you're doing, give 110%, and eventually you'll get 110% back.
Mike?
David didn't realize that his handicap going into that last game was that I picked him, so.
Thanks, Mike. No, I feel comfortable. I'm bowling pretty good right now, and hopefully I'll carry over to next week and the week after. You know, just that's how you make your living out here, is catch these strings, ride them hard, and hopefully I can be there again next week.
Well, you're bowling outstanding, and speaking of outstanding bowlers, in just a moment or so, we'll bring up one of the proprietors here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl, Earl himself, to ask his thoughts about this great championship. Stay tuned.
For every man who wears Brute, there's a woman who loves what he smells like. Because there's something about Brute that's nice to be close to. And nobody knows that better than a woman.
Hello? Honey, I was just thinking about you.
Brute cologne, deodorant, and everything else. Brute, it smells like a man.
From the beginning, food and ice have fought for space in your ice chest. And from the beginning, food has lost. That's why Gott decided to put ice in its place, in the lid, with our patented refreeze bottle. Just fill it, freeze it, then lock it in. It does the job without fighting your food for space. The refreeze ice chest, a technical knockout, only from Gott.
After years of research, the high-tech laboratories of Columbia 300 have created the most advanced urethane bowling ball ever made, the 100% urethane Columbia 300 U-Dot. The extraordinary U-Dot solves the inherent problems of lope and wobble. Its devastating pin power and superior lane control characteristics are unequaled. If you bowl to win, the Columbia 300 U-Dot is the ultimate weapon. It's like no ball ever made before. Sold only in lanes and pro shops.
The Energizer. Good times never lasted longer.
And upcoming on ESPN in the next couple of weeks, some outstanding bowling. Of course, the $125,000 Columbia 300 Open in Seattle, Washington. Always nice to go back to the great Northwest.
And then we head on down to Riverside, California for the $117,500 Southern California Open.
And then one of my favorite stops on the PBA Summer Tour, the $140,000 Miller Lite Challenge, played in Tucson, Arizona. Pete Tanis, the host of that outstanding event.
And then we head back to the state that I lived in for a year, to Austin, Texas, for the $115,000 Austin Open.
And we're back live at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. And guess what? We've got the man himself here on the approach, Earl Anthony. Earl, was it harder watching the championship tonight or winning one of your 41 victories?
It's a lot easier to watch, Dennis. Believe me, it's a lot easier. And I did have some observations tonight. I noticed a couple of things that I thought were kind of keys in the matches. Dave Ozio bowled extremely well. Had a lot of trouble with the left-hand lane. Couldn't seem to get the 10-pin out. He made some adjustments later in his second match with the young left-hander Greiner, and he started to carry in the left-hand lane. And I thought he would be extremely strong. I agreed with Mike. I thought he had a good chance to win the tournament going into the championship match. But I was very, very, very surprised and impressed with the way Mark Baker bowled the championship match. He was a lot more relaxed on the approach. He didn't seem to be aiming the ball quite as much. He let it go. He rolled the ball extremely well. Just more relaxed with his swing, and it showed in his score.
It's amazing. If he continues to win here in your bowling center, he may buy you out of this place.
That's a good option for him. Mark, where is he? Mark?
Now, Earl, obviously, when you bowled and you were in your prime, you had as many revolutions on your bowling ball as John Gant does now.
Only when it went down and came back, Dennis. Not. He gets more in one direction, and I get both ways. John Gant gets more revolutions in the air than my ball did on the lane. He's a very impressive young man, a tremendous talent.
Have you been bowling much lately, Earl? What's the future hold for Earl Anthony right now?
I'm trying to improve my golf scores right now, Mike. Everybody has priorities, right? Mine right now is learning how to putt. If I can learn how to putt, I'll be all right.
You played today. How did you play today?
You had to ask. I had 79 today and lost all my money to the tournament director, Harry Golden, Frank Ellenberg, and a couple other guys. And I have to bowl next week, try to get it back.
You're heading up for Seattle. Can we look for you on the television show next week?
I'll be in Hawaii during the telecast. I don't plan on making the telecast. I plan on bowling in the tournament, but then I'll be in Hawaii.
Let's hope he has to change his plane tickets. What about the senior tour coming up? I know all the bowling fans all over the country will look forward to seeing the Doomsday Stroking Machine back in action.
What are you talking about?
You.
The senior tour, that's a long ways from now, Dennis. I got quite a while yet before I'll be eligible for that, so I'm not thinking about that yet.
How many years will it be?
About 11 months. But I might start practicing about 2 or 3 days before the first tournament.
And you'll probably still win. A great champion, a great proprietor, an outstanding tournament. You saw it all live on ESPN this evening. The $125,000 Kessler Open. Mark Baker with his third PBA career title. An outstanding win for him this evening, a 257-233 victory over David Ozio. Mike, thanks so much for your commentary. I'll see you in the great Northwest next week. Earl, the same to you, and bowling fans, thanks for staying tuned. So long from Dublin, California. Next week on ESPN, it's the $125,000 Columbia 300 Open, live from Skyway Park Bowl in Seattle, Washington, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Tonight's $125,000 Kessler Open has been brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood Age, but a distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. For all that you do, this Bud's for you. And by True Value Hardware. More than just a name, it's their way of doing business. This has been a presentation of Bud Sports to the facilities of ESPN.
United United can show you the old Hawaii where time takes a rest.